Okay, so now we're going to move on to electric guitar. This is louder and noisier stuff, but so that you can hear me talk, we can't really have the amps too loud as we get this demonstration going. But Danny and I are going to just kind of run through a few things out here. I typically, not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time like to do multiple amp setups. I have a guitar splitter here, which enables us to take the one line out of the guitar and go into a device that we can send out to multiple amps. It's a Radial JD7 is the box, and it has things like ground lift for each individual amp send. I can flip the polarity because not all amps have the same polarity in the way the speaker moves, and so we want everything behaving the same way. So that's a really good device for that. And then we have two amplifiers. We have a small combo amp, which is an Ampeg Jet 2, and that amp it's open back, has a reverb, a spring reverb, and tremolo on it. Really simple amp. It's got volume and tone. Other than that, and then this closed back cabinet has another tube amplifier connected to it. It's a bit of a unique piece. It's a tube amp. It was an old film projector, 16 millimeter film, and I had it modified and turned into a guitar amp. So it's a little bit of a special piece, but it is truly just a simple tube amp. And this isn't a tube amp or amplifier workshop, or this is a recording technique workshop. So, of course, so we'll just kind of leave it at that. It's real simple as well. It has volume and tone on it, and we have the projector amp is feeding this cabinet. Has two 12-inch speakers in it. The Ampeg Jet has a 10-inch speaker in it. So just kind of want to walk you through the setup a little bit. We will add guitar pedals, but we're going to move Danny into the control room with me, and we'll be sending the signal from the control room out here through another radio engineering box, which is an SGI. And what the SGI allows us to do is take an instrument level signal and to send it down the microphone lines over a balanced signal, because it has transformer in it in the SGI, and allows us to balance the signal and to send it over a long distance really cleanly. I know this is maybe more equipment than some of you may have, but I want to explain it so you know what we're doing. I will also sort of distill it down to simpler setup, but at the moment, Danny's in here because typically what I like to do is check out how each of the guitar amps sound. So if we have two, maybe we have more, I would turn on each amp individually and just kind of listen to how it was sounding. I want a combination of amps typically, so that you have the ability, in the same way that we did with the acoustic guitar, to blend tones and put different microphones across things, and be able to balance and manage to get a very full and specific sound that we're going for. So Danny, if you just play a little bit, I'll turn each amp on individually. You're going to just hear it in the room right now, just talking about the process of setup. If you just play for me. Thanks, man. So just probably hopefully over this little vocal lav mic, you can hear that the tone of them is a little different. I like to get set up and have the guitar player out here, and we kind of get a feeling for what each amp is going to do. Sometimes we bring some guitar pedals out here and set the amps up and get the volumes of them all balanced against each other, figure out maybe what some of the pedals we want to use. Even sometimes I might put like a delay pedal only on one of the amps, not necessarily feed a signal to all of the amps that has a delay pedal on it. Once we move the guitar into the control room where Danny's playing in there, we're going to add some pedals to the sound in there, which that sound with those effects will feed all the amps out here. But I just kind of want to make it clear that one thing that's nice about having the multiple amp setup is that you can, I could turn the reverb up on just the jet. The projector amp doesn't have reverb. I could just put a phaser on one of the amps or a delay or what have you. Just having a multiple amp setup is really nice. Now, a lot of you may only have one amplifier to record. I would still recommend, if possible, to set up multiple mics. I have a microphone on each speaker, but you could, like, if we were only able to record with one amp, I have a 57 here, an SM57, and this is an AKG 414. I mean, you can put two microphones on one amp and then blend them together in the same way that we were combining microphone sounds and placement to get a full and malleable sound on the acoustic. But I'm doing one microphone on each speaker because obviously this speaker is because it's a different size with a different amplifier is different than this cabinet. But the thing about this cabinet is I have two different models of speaker in here. So even though we've got one enclosure that this amp is feeding, I have two different types of speakers in here, so they have a different sound signature character. And I'm just putting one microphone on each cabinet. My personal taste and in terms of how I mic a guitar is I don't put the microphone really close. I get it back a little bit. A few inches is probably is where I'm usually placing the microphone. It's not very often that I would get past like 4, 5, 6 inches away from it. I just want a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of time for the sound to develop, and same as the demonstration with the acoustic guitar. The closer you get, the more focused the sound is on a particular area, and the sound off of a speaker is not the same all the way around. As you get out towards the outer edge, towards the perimeter, the sound gets a little bit darker. And I'm not right in the middle where that's if there's a dust cap. A speaker, let's say the speaker's like that, then there's the smaller round part in the middle, which is the dust cap for the voice coil. That's really the right in the center is the brightest place. I like to typically put the microphone on the edge of where the dust cap is, where it meets the paper cone. So I will often get out a flashlight, and we'll use my phone, and I'll shine it through the grill cloth and get a look-see at where that is, where the dust cap is meeting the paper cone, and I'll position the mic there. So just to be clear, if this is the dust cap, it's positioned right there. And then you can experiment. If you want it a little bit brighter, you can move it in. If you want it a little bit darker, you move it out towards the edge. You can also take the microphone off axis and roll off some of that high frequency and focus it a little bit more towards the low frequency in the outer edge. But general rule of thumb is a few inches off of the front of the amp, at that edge of the dust cap, and I'm just going to go through and check each spot. And I also want to be consistent with how far the microphones are from a particular cabinet or the speakers. Like, I want to make sure that both of these microphones are the same distance from, and when I say microphones, I don't mean the body of the microphone. I mean the capsule of the microphone, the part inside, the diaphragm inside that actually collects and the sound and hears the sound. And it's a bit different, so you kind of have to have a little bit of you have to have a little knowledge about the inner workings of a microphone to make a good judgment call about lining that up. And you can do it. You'll have to do it a little bit by ear. There's also ways to do it where you can look at multiple tracks. I could send each of these microphones to multiple tracks and visually see how lined up it is. That's one way to do it. I don't typically do it that way because we're going to combine all of these microphones, all the sound down to one track. And it's also important as I've created a line of amplifiers that the speakers are also kind of lined up in a similar plane, so that the sound in the room is arriving at the microphones at a pretty consistent distance in the room. Because if they were very different from each other, you would get different reflections and frequency responses and build up and cancellation of stuff. So another thing I should say about setting up out here is it's just, I mean, we can hear a little bit of amp buzz. I mean, that's just the reality of amplifiers. I want to make sure I get them as quiet as possible. So you hear a little bit of ground hum. I have each individual send, like I was saying, has a ground lift. So when I put it in when I put the ground lift feeding the projector amp, it gets rid of the buzz because the amplifiers are interacting a little bit with each other through the splitter. There's a fourth microphone that I have sitting over there. It's I don't know, I forget the actual model number, but it's an Altec. Oh, it's a 633A. It's called the Salt Shaker mic. It's pretty low fidelity, and I kind of have it hanging around just in case there's some mid-range, because it's a real mid-rangey mic because it's kind of low fidelity. I might want to put it on a speaker. I might put it on the back of this open back combo amp. If you put a microphone on the back, it's going to have a warmer, darker sound that I could blend in. Same example as with acoustic. The thing to keep in mind is if I have one microphone in front this way and I put another microphone in the back, I've got to switch the polarity of the microphone that's in the back so that it's seeing the speaker move the same way. And then the sound is combining properly. I'm just kind of leaving this hanging out. I'm not sure I'm going to use it. Sometimes if I want just like a nice kind of ambient room addition to the picture, I can put it on the floor or just put it somewhere else in the room and just sort of blend in a little bit of room tone. So it's just hanging out for the moment. Can you think of anything else, Danny?
Yeah, maybe if you want a room tone, put a mic up there in the corner.
Sure. Yes, exactly. We do that. We use like a U87 or another 414 or just some nice large diaphragm condenser, and we'll put it up in the corner of the space just so that we can have a room tone. If we're miking something like that far away to get the room tone, we'd print that to a separate track because we might want to pan it differently or not use it for every section of the song. That's a great idea. Great thought. Anything else?
Yeah, and if you don't have a JD7, there are ground lifts that you can use on the amplifiers if you're having a buzz as well. And yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that about covers it. This is just the sort of the setup phase. Now we need to go into the control room and get set up in there. We're going to turn the amps up a lot louder now so that we can get a distorted sound. Can't really be out here and show that to you. But we're going to go in the control room and turn these amps up and sort of start to dial in the sound and put something together for. We're going to do a heavy sound first, so we're going to throw a distortion pedal in, and we're going to do the the heavier rhythm guitars for the intro and chorus of Bury It.